Hello, and welcome back to Sleepy Histories, the place where we gently turn the pages of the past to help you find your rest. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? That somewhere out there, from quiet bedrooms and cozy corners all over the world, we're all listening together. If you'd like, I'd love to know where you're joining from. Feel free to share it in the comments below. Before we get comfortable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Now, close your eyes and let's drift back in time together. Tonight's story is about waking up in a Roman tenement. Before the light, there is sound. Before the shape of the world returns, before you remember your name, your debts, your aching bones, you are adrift in a sea of noise. This is the first truth of Rome for the 99%. Not the silence of a marble villa, where the only disturbance might be the gentle rustle of a slave's tunic or the distant song of a bird in a manicured garden. No, for you, here, in the beating, grumbling heart of the Subura, silence is a luxury more precious than gold, and one you have never known. You are Gaius, or rather you will be when the world demands it. For now, you are a consciousness snagged on the edge of a dream. The dream was pleasant, as they often are a fantasy of open fields, the smell of clean earth after rain, a child's laughter that wasn't cut short by hunger. It was a lie, a sweet poison the mind brews in the dark to make the waking world bearable. But the poison is losing its potency. The dream phrase, torn apart by the first true sound of your morning. That is Septimus. You've never seen his face clearly, but you know his soul through that cough. He lives in the Cenaculum next door, the apartment space separated from yours by a wall of cheap timber and crumbling wattle and daub. You hear his life in installments. You hear him argue with his wife. You hear him weep when he thinks no one is listening, and you hear him dying, one phlegm-choked cough at a time. In the Insula, this great tenement block stacked 6 stories high, privacy is the greatest illusion of them all. His sound is a promise, a reminder of what the smoke from 1,000 charcoal braziers and the ever-present damp of the city does to a man's body. It is the sound of your own possible future. You try to sink back into the dream, to find the sun-drenched field, but another sound hooks you, pulling you further towards the surface of the day. This sound is newer. It comes from the floor beneath you. A family moved in 2 months ago. You know they have a baby, not because you were introduced, but because its cries have become part of the building's symphony. It is the sound of hunger, the thin, desperate wail of a stomach that knows only emptiness. You wonder if the mother has any milk left to give, or if she, like so many others, is forced to feed her infant a mash of flour and water, a poor substitute that swells the belly but offers little strength. The cry is a needle, stitching a tapestry of shared misery. Every parent in this building hears that cry and feels a pang of familiar dread. It is the sound of life at its most precarious, a flickering candle in a drafty, indifferent hall. Your own son, Lucius, stirs beside you. He makes a small noise in his sleep, a whimper. You instinctively reach out a hand in the darkness, your fingers finding the rough wool of the thin blanket that covers him. He settles. He is 5. He is, for now, quiet. You pray to whatever gods might be listening in a place like this, the domestic Lares and Penedes, perhaps, though you have no proper shrine for them, that he remains that way. One cry can trigger another, and a chorus of wailing children can shred the last vestiges of morning peace. And there it is, the final anchor chaining you to the waking world. Your father-in-law, Marcus. He lies on his own straw pallet on the other side of the 10-foot by 12-foot space you all call home. His snores are a constant, a force of nature like the tide. They are the sound of exhaustion, the body's final surrender after a day of hauling amphorae at the river docks. You resent the noise, the sheer volume of it that fills the tiny room, but you also understand it. It is the sound of a man who has worked himself to the bone for 50 years and has nothing to show for it but calloused hands and a space on a floor. His snores are the bass note in the symphony, a steady, rumbling rhythm against which the sharper, more painful sounds of the building play out their melodies. You are fully awake now, though your eyes are still closed. The dream is a ghost, a wisp of smoke already gone. Your mind, no longer shielded by sleep, begins to register the other sensations. The first is the cold. It is not a bracing, clean cold. It is a damp, seeping chill that feels as if it emanates from the very bones of the building. This insula, like all the others, was built for maximum profit, not for comfort. Constructed by a wealthy equestrian landlord you will never meet, it is a flimsy tower of timber-framed masonry, riddled with cracks and gaps. The cold slithers through these imperfections, a phantom caress on your exposed cheek. It smells of wet plaster, of mold, and of the perpetually damp earth far below. The single blanket you share with your wife, Aurelia, and your son is a small island of meager warmth in an ocean of cold. It's made of coarse, scratchy wool, patched in several places. Where it presses against your body, there is a semblance of heat, a memory of life. But where the air touches you, your face, your arm that rests outside its protection, the cold is a physical presence. It tightens the skin, makes the small hairs on your arm stand on end. You pull the blanket higher, tucking it under your chin, a small, futile act of defiance against the morning. Beneath you is the second sensation, the ground. You do not sleep on a bed. Beds with carved frames and wool-stuffed mattresses are for the rich, for the people who live in the sprawling, single-story homes that dome us on the Palatine Hill. You sleep on a pallet, a sack of coarse cloth filled with straw. Over the months, the straw has compacted, shifted, and broken down, forming lumps and hollows. It offers almost no cushion against the hard, unforgiving floorboards beneath. Your hip aches where it presses into a particularly unyielding plank. Your shoulder is stiff. You know that when you finally rise, your back will send a jolt of pain through your body, a daily greeting from a life of physical labor and poor rest. You can feel the texture of the floor through the thin pallet, the raised grain of the cheap wood. The slight gap between two boards, where a draft seems to emanate directly from the dark, refuse-filled space beneath the ground floor. This constant, intimate connection with the hardness of your world is a reminder of your place in it. You are not floating through life on pillows of comfort. You are ground down against its abrasive surface every single night. Then you breathe in, and the third sensation registers. The smell. The air in this room is a thick soup of odors, a history of yesterday's existence. It is never fresh. The single window, shuttered tight against the night's chill and its dangers, allows for no circulation. You breathe in the collective exhalations of 4 sleeping bodies, the stale metallic scent of human breath. You smell sweat, the sour ghost of yesterday's labor, embedded in the blankets, in your tunic you use as a pillow, in the very walls themselves. Underneath, that is the smell of smoke. The small, portable charcoal brazier you use for cooking and heat was extinguished hours ago, but its ghost lingers. It's not the pleasant, woody smell of a country hearth. It's the acrid, greasy stench of cheap charcoal, a smell that clogs the lungs and coats every surface in a thin layer of grime. It's the smell of a fire that is both a necessity for life and a constant, terrifying threat. Every week, it seems you hear shouts of Ignis, Ignis, fire, from a nearby block, a precursor to chaos and often death. The smell of smoke is the smell of survival and destruction, mingled into one. There are other smells, too. The faint, sour odor of the dregs of cheap wine in a clay cup. The musty smell of the damp patch on the wall where water from the floor above has been leaking for a year. A dark map of urban decay. And beneath it all, the pervasive, omnipresent smell of the city itself. A faint but persistent undertone of human waste, rotting garbage, and crowded, unwashed humanity. This is the air you breathe. This is the substance that fills your lungs and fuels your blood. It is the very atmosphere of poverty. Now, a new sound cuts through the domestic symphony. It is louder, sharper, and comes from the world outside. The supply carts. You know the sound instantly. By law, the Lex Iulia Municipalis enacted by the great Julius Caesar himself, wheeled traffic is forbidden within the city of Rome, from sunrise to the late afternoon. The decree was meant to ease the city's unbearable daytime congestion, to make the streets passable for the millions of pedestrians. But the lifeblood of Rome, the grain, the wine, the oil, the endless tons of marble and timber must still flow. And so, the night belongs to them. An army of carters and drovers who thunder through the narrow, dark arteries of the city while its citizens try to sleep. Their work is a race against the dawn. This sound, the screech of an ungreased axle, the crack of a whip, the low curses of the driver urging his beasts on, is the sound of the city's massive, hungry metabolism. It is a reminder that you are a tiny cog in a vast, relentless machine. That cart is likely carrying grain from the great port of Ostia, grain that will be milled into flour and sold as bread that you will have to spend a significant portion of your day's wages to buy. The sound is an intrusion, a thief of sleep, but it is also the sound of the system that both feeds you and enslaves you. You shift on your pallet, the straw rustling like dry leaves. The movement is a concession. The battle is lost. Sleep will not reclaim you now. Your body is a tense knot of aches and discomfort. Your mind is a canvas, and the sounds and smells of your world are painting the familiar portrait of the day to come. The cough, the cry, the snore, the cold, the hardness, the smell, the cart, they are the heralds of your morning. You lie there for a few moments longer, in the shared darkness, in the shared misery, in the shared life of the Insula. This is the quietest it will get. In an hour, the building will be a hive of activity. Doors will slam, neighbors will shout. The clatter of daily chores will begin. The street below will transform from the domain of carts into a roaring river of people, shopkeepers, craftsmen, hustlers, beggars, slaves, citizens, all scrambling to make their way, to earn the few sestertii needed to do this all over again tomorrow. But for now, there is only this fragile, suffocating pause between the oblivion of sleep and the tyranny of the day. You are not a senator debating in the forum. You are not a general planning a campaign. You are not a poet composing verses in a sunlit courtyard. You are Gaius. You are a plebeian, a man of the Roman mob. You live on the 4th floor of the Vespian block, a 6-story fire trap in the heart of the Subura. Your world is this room, these sounds, this cold, and it is time to open your eyes. Sight does not flood in, it seeps. It trickles into the room like a tired tide, a gray, watery fluid that doesn't so much illuminate as it does reveal the darkness. Your eye, now open, begins the slow, familiar process of carving shapes out of the gloom. This is a skill learned from birth in such places. How to see in the half-light, how to navigate a world that is perpetually cast in shadow. Your first gaze is always toward the source of this meager light, the window. It is less a window and more a wound in the wall, poorly patched with a slab of wood. There is no glass. Glass vitrum is for the bathhouses, for the palaces on the Palatine, for the seaside villas of the fabulously wealthy. For the millions in Rome's tenement blocks, a window is simply a hole that must be plugged against the night's malevolence, the cold, the rain, the thieves who scale these flimsy walls. The shutter is a piece of your history. You can trace its story in the faint light. It is made of 3 planks of cheap pine, warped by years of damp winters and baking summers. A dark stain in the corner marks the time Lucius, as a toddler, spilled a cup of watered-down wine. A deep gouge near the bottom is where you once had to pry it open after a winter storm swelled the wood, trapping you in stifling darkness for half a day. It is held in place by a simple wooden crosspiece. No lock. The only thing it truly keeps out is the light. You know you must open it. The air in the room is thick enough to chew, a recycled cocktail of sleep and smoke. But you hesitate. Opening the shutter is an irrevocable act. It is the formal surrender to the day. It is an invitation for the full reality of the world to rush in. For a moment, you savor the illusion of the room as a sanctuary, however flawed, a cave, a den. But the illusion is thin. The sounds pressing in from all sides remind you that you are not separate from the world. You are merely in one of its countless, crowded cells. With a grunt, you push yourself up onto one elbow. The straw in your palate crackles in protest. The pain in your back sends a familiar, sharp greeting. You reach out. There it is. The day. It arrives not as a promise, but as a diagnosis. The gray light performs its merciless work, and the room gives up its secrets. The first thing the light finds are the dust motes, a swirling, chaotic galaxy of tiny particles, bits of straw, flakes of skin, fibers of wool, and a universe of soot. You watch them dance in the narrow beam, a silent, beautiful testament to the filth you breathe. Your gaze follows the light as it crawls across the walls, and you see the truth of your home. The walls are opus criticium, the cheapest form of construction known to Roman builders. A lattice of timber frames filled with a crude mixture of reeds, straw, and plaster, what modern times might call wattle and daub. It is, in essence, a wall of mud and sticks. The plaster is cracked and crumbling, a spiderweb of fissures that map the building's slow, inevitable decay. In one corner, the plaster has fallen away entirely, revealing the dark, organic mass within. And there is the map of the upstairs neighbor's life. That stain, a permanent feature of your geography, is from their perpetually leaking water jug, or perhaps their chamber pot. You don't know for sure. You only know that their carelessness, their misfortune, drips down into your world. The stain is a different color in different seasons, dark and threatening in the winter rains, pale and dormant in the summer heat. It is a living thing, a testament to the fact that in an insula, no one's problems are truly their own. They seep through the floors. They bleed through the walls. The light continues its journey upward to the ceiling. It is not a ceiling, really. It is simply the underside of the floorboards of the apartment above. You can see every plank, rough-hewn and dark. They are coated in a thick, greasy layer of black soot, a sticky residue that is built up over years. It is the physical manifestation of every fire ever lit in this room, every meal cooked, every cold night endured. Sometimes small black flakes detach and drift down, landing on your blanket, in your food, on your face as you sleep. You have grown so used to it that you no longer notice. It is simply part of the weather of your world. Having absorbed the shape of your prison, your eyes now begin their inventory of the objects within it. You do not have possessions. You have tools for survival. The arca, the chest. This is the most important object in the room. It is the family's fortress. It is older than you are, inherited from Aurelia's father. The wood is scarred and battered from half a dozen moves between one squalid apartment and the next. But it is strong. Inside this chest lies everything of value your family owns. It is your wardrobe, holding the 2 spare tunics, one for you, one for Aurelia that you save for festival days or for washing the ones on your backs. It is your treasury, containing a small, greasy leather pouch where you keep the few dozen sestertii and asses that stand between your family and starvation. The coins are a constant source of anxiety, their number dwindling with every trip to the baker and the wine cellar. It is your archive, holding the few documents that prove your status as a Roman citizen, a fragile shield against the worst forms of injustice. And it is a box of memories, holding a single smooth, white stone lucis found by the Tiber, and a small, carved wooden bird, a cheap toy you bought for your firstborn daughter before the fever took her 3 winters ago. You never speak of it, but you both know it is there. The arca is a container not just of things, but of your entire fragile existence. Next to it, your gaze falls upon the source of the soot, the focus, the brazier. This simple clay bowl is the hearth of your home. It is your kitchen, where Aurelia will later warm a mash of wheat for breakfast. It is your furnace, providing the only heat against the bone-aching chill of a winter night. It is a gathering place, the spot around which the 4 of you huddle, sharing stories or simply sitting in shared silence. It is also the most dangerous thing you own. You know the stories because you see the evidence. The blackened shells of Insula that have gone up in flames, the hushed whispers of families trapped on the upper floors. These buildings are tinderboxes. The dry timber frames, the straw in the walls, the wooden stairs, all of it is fuel waiting for a spark. A stray ember from a brazier like this, knocked over in the night or left unattended, is all it takes. The vigils, the city's firefighters and night watch, are notoriously slow to respond to the labyrinthine alleys of the Subura, and their equipment is often inadequate for a 6-story building. The fire is a constant, quiet fear that sits in the back of your mind. The focus is both life and death, held in a fragile clay pot. Your eyes drift from the brazier to the small stack of pottery next to it. 3 bowls, 4 clay cups. They are crude, reddish-brown earthenware, chipped and stained. They are purely functional, devoid of the elegant decorations you sometimes see in the market stalls selling expensive Samian ware. Your bowls are for holding porridge, not for displaying wealth. They are another quiet, constant reminder of your station. Having surveyed the inanimate, your gaze finally, inevitably, turns to the animate, to the other lives sharing this space. Your wife, Aurelia, lies on her side, facing away from you. One arm is curled protectively around your son, Lucius, who is nestled in the space between you. Even in the gloom, you can see the tension in her shoulders. She never fully relaxes, not even in sleep. Her breathing is shallow, as if she is listening even when unconscious. You see the faint silver strands in her dark hair, more of them this year than last. You see the strength in the line of her back, a resilience that meets your own. You share no grand passions, no whispered poetry. Your bond is forged in a harder, hotter fire. It is a partnership of survival, an unspoken alliance against the crushing weight of this city. You know the exact rhythm of her breathing, the feel of her hand in yours in the dark. It is a language deeper than words. Tucked against her is Lucius. His small face is serene, his mouth slightly open. His hair is a messy tangle on the coarse blanket. In sleep, he is free. He is not the boy who is already learning to be wary of strangers, to ignore the gnawing in his belly. He is just a child, dreaming whatever simple, beautiful dreams a 5-year-old can conjure. Looking at him is a physical ache in your chest. He is your reason. He is the reason you will get up from this pallet, walk down 6 flights of crumbling stairs, and offer your body for 10 hours of back-breaking labor at the construction site on the Esquiline Hill. He is your hope, a terrifyingly fragile vessel in which you place all the ambitions you have long since abandoned for yourself. You pray he is strong enough, lucky enough, to climb out of this room, this building, this life. Finally, your eyes settle on the form across the room. Marcus, your father-in-law. He is a ghost from your future. 60 years old, he looks 80. His body is a wreck, a testament to a lifetime of servitude to the city's needs. He has hauled and lifted and carried until his joints have ground down and his back has permanently stooped. Now he is too old and too slow for the heavy work. He earns a pittance watching goods at a market stall, a job given to him out of pity. He is another mouth to feed, another body taking up space in the suffocating room. Sometimes a bitter resentment gnaws at you, but then you look at his hands, those gnarled, useless tools, and you see your own hands in 30 years. He is not a burden. He is a warning. He is a living portrait of what this city does to its sons. It uses them, breaks them, and then discards them. You will be him. And one day, Lucius will be you, looking at his own father sleeping on a pallet, snoring the sleep of the utterly exhausted, and he will feel this same mixture of pity and dread. The cycle is as predictable as the rising of the sun. The room is now fully visible. It is not a home. A home is a place of comfort, of refuge. This is a cage. A 10 by 12 foot cage for 4 human beings. You have taken it all in. The leaky walls, the soot-stained ceiling, the precious chest, the dangerous brazier, the sleeping wife, the hopeful son, the broken old man. This is the sum total of your world. This is the reality that the gray morning light has delivered to your open eyes. There is no beauty here. There is only what is. And what is the knowledge that the struggle has begun anew. And so it begins. The truce is broken. One sound, one act of violence or clumsiness is all it takes to signal the end of the night's fragile peace. It is the first tremor that awakens the beast. Because that is what this building, this insula, truly is. A great slumbering beast. Its hide is peeling plaster and cheap masonry. Its bones are strained and creaking timber. Its belly holds 6 stories of human life, packed into its cells like bees in a rotting hive. And now it is waking up. You don't flinch. You are accustomed to the sudden noises, the eruptions of chaos that punctuate the quiet moments. The family directly above you, on the 5th floor, are the corvi. You know them by the noise they rain down upon your ceiling. The father is a fooler, a clothes cleaner, and his temper is as foul as the stench of the urine he uses in his trade. The mother's shouts are the soundtrack to their lives. The thump was likely the father, still drunk from the night before, stumbling over a stool. The crying is one of their 3 children, startled from sleep. You feel a brief, fleeting moment of pity for the child, but it is quickly swallowed by the rising tide of noise. The beast stirs, and it begins to speak in 1,000 voices. You are a prisoner, but your ears can roam free, gathering intelligence. Through the wall to your left, Septimus's morning misery begins. His wife, Portia, berates him. You have heard this sermon 100 times. His sickness makes him weak. Weakness means no work, and no work means no food. Her bitterness is a poison, but it is a poison brewed from fear. You know this because you feel the same fear, a cold stone in the pit of your own stomach. Her words are cruel, but they are the expression of a terror. Every person in this building understands the terror of becoming useless. The beast groans. The floorboards above you creak and groan as the Corvi family begins to move about. The sound is not the gentle footfall of the wealthy on mosaic floors. It is the heavy, resonant complaint of cheap wood bearing too much weight. You can track their movements. The father stumbles toward the chamber pot in the corner. One of the children runs, a quick pitter-patter of bare feet, before being silenced by another shout. Through the wall to your right, Lydia has started her work. She is a widow, and she supports her 2 daughters by weaving. That sound is her loom. She rises before anyone else, working by the faint light of an oil lamp to get a head start on the day. The thump-clack of the wooden beater bar packing the weft threads into place is one of the more tolerable sounds of the building. It speaks of diligence, of quiet desperation. It is the sound of a woman single-handedly holding starvation at bay. Each clack is a victory. Another inch of cloth woven, another few asses earned for bread. That sound will continue, without pause, until long after the sun has set. It is the heartbeat of her survival. The waking beast must breathe, and its breath is smoke. You begin to smell it before you see it. The air in your room, already thick and stale, is now being invaded. The smell of burning charcoal, sharper and fresher than the ghost of your own extinguished fire, seeps in from the hallway. Dozens of families, on all 6 floors, are now lighting their braziers. They are boiling water, warming porridge, or simply trying to fight off the pervasive morning chill. The collective smoke from these fires does not simply vent into the open air. It fills the narrow, dark stairwells and hallways first, creating a perpetual blue haze that stings the eyes and coats the throat. The Insula exhales, and its breath is a toxic cloud. You think again of Septimus's cough. He is not just dying of a private sickness. He is being slowly suffocated by the building itself, poisoned by the collective breath of his neighbors. This shared air is a shared sentence. And with the smoke comes the smell of cooking. It is a tapestry of poverty. From one apartment comes the simple, nutty smell of pulse, the wheat porridge that is the staple of the Roman poor. From another, a sharper, more luxurious smell garlic and onions frying in a little oil. The family in that Cenaculum must have had a good week. Perhaps the father is a skilled craftsman, or the daughter has found favor with a wealthy patron. You feel a pang of envy, sharp and hot, before you swallow it down. Envy is a luxury you cannot afford. Your own breakfast will be dry bread and water. The smell is a taunt, a reminder of the city's vast hierarchy, a ladder where you are many rungs below the family who can afford garlic with their morning meal. Then comes the most infamous ritual of the Roman morning, the emptying of the chamber pots. Your building, like most insulae, has no running water above the ground floor. There are no private latrines. Each family has a lasanum, a chamber pot, which serves as their toilet through the night. And each morning, it must be emptied. The law requires a warning shout. The fine for drenching a passerby is steep, if you can be identified. But in the pre-dawn chaos, many don't bother. They simply open the shutter and pour. The sound is a daily humiliation. It is the most visceral reminder of your squalid existence. You live, quite literally, on top of each other, sharing air, walls, and even waste. The alleyway below your window is not a charming thoroughfare. It is an open sewer, a repository for the bodily functions of hundreds of people. The stench that wafts up after the splash acrid and foul is overpowering for a moment, another ingredient added to the morning's thick atmospheric stew. You thank the gods your own shutter does not open onto that side of the building. The beast is now fully awake. Its symphony is approaching its crescendo. The individual sounds are merging into a single overwhelming roar. Listen, this is the true voice of Rome, not the eloquent orations in the Senate, not the soaring poetry of Virgil. This is it. This is the sound of 1,000,000 lives scraping against each other in a space too small to contain them. It is the sound of friction, of struggle, of life being lived at the sharpest edge of desperation. You are not just in a room. You are inside an engine, a machine fueled by human need. You are an expert in this language of noise. You can deconstruct the chaos into its component parts. The rhythmic pounding from the ground floor means Pistorius the baker is at his dough trough. The bread will be for sale in an hour. The frantic shouting from the third floor means the Gemini brothers, who work as hired thugs, are arguing over last night's spoils. The high-pitched laughter from the stairwell means the children of the slave family who live on the roof are playing their game of knucklebones before they are put to work. Every sound tells a story, and together they tell the great, sprawling, messy epic of the Insula. It is a vertical neighborhood, a city within a city. You know these people not by their faces, but by the sounds of their lives penetrating your own. You are bound to them, not by friendship or kinship, but by shared proximity and shared squalor. They are the chorus to the drama of your life, and you to theirs. There are no secrets here. The thin walls are membranes, not barriers. Joy, grief, anger, sickness, love, and death, they all leak through. This constant, overwhelming sensory input is a weight. It presses down on you, erasing the possibility of quiet contemplation. It is impossible to have a private thought. Your mind is never truly your own. It is always occupied by the lives of others. This is part of the system. A man who cannot think, who is constantly battered by noise and distraction, is a man who is easier to control. He has no time for philosophy, no energy for rebellion. He has time only for reaction, for the next task, for survival. The air in the room stirs. It is not a draft from the window. Your wife is awake, Her eyes meet yours across the gloom. In her gaze, you see a reflection of your own resignation. She has heard it all, too. She has processed the sounds, smelled the air, and has come to the same conclusion. The night is over. The day has claimed the building. She offers no words. There is nothing to say that has not been said 1,000 times. Instead, she gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. It is a signal, an acknowledgement. It means, yes, it is time. Let us begin. The great beast of the Insula roars around you, but for this brief second, your world has shrunk again. It is no longer the building, but this room. Not the chorus of strangers, but the silent gaze of your wife. The time for listening to the world is over. The time for acting within it has arrived. In the silent language of shared hardship, a contract is renewed. No words are needed. The nod was the signature. The day has been acknowledged, and its demands must now be met. The engine of the Insula roars around them, but within this 10 by 12-foot cell, another, much smaller and more precise machine whirs to life. The family. Aurelia moves first. She always does. To live in such a space with 4 people is to learn a silent choreography. Every movement is calculated to conserve space and energy. There are no wasted gestures, no superfluous steps. Aurelia's path from the pallet to the water basin is as worn and familiar as a pilgrim's route to a shrine. To an outsider, it would look like a cramped, awkward shuffle. To you, it is a display of profound skill, the art of existing in a cage without rattling the bars. She reaches the corner where a large clay amphora stands, stoppered with a cloth plug. This is the family's water supply. It is not piped in by the marvels of Roman aqueduct engineering. Those serve the fountains, the baths, and the villas of the rich. This water was hauled by you the previous evening. You remember the effort, the burning in your shoulders as you carried the heavy vessel up 6 flights of stairs, jostling for space with other residents, the sloshing water a precious, heavy burden. Every drop in that amphora is measured in sweat. The morning ablutions are a ritual of function, not refreshment. The water is cold, there is no soap. For the wealthy, cleansing was a public and elaborate affair involving heated rooms, perfumed oils, and the scraping of a strigil. For you, it is this, a damp cloth and a few ounces of precious water. Aurelia wipes the sleep from her eyes, the grime from her neck. It is a gesture of dignity, a small act of purification that separates the night from the day, the human from the animal. She is reclaiming her face from the anonymity of the darkness. When she is done, she doesn't throw the water out. She leaves the small, murky pool in the basin. You are next. You rise now, your own body protesting with a series of dull aches. You trade places with her. She moves to the arca, the great chest, while you take your turn at the basin. The water is frigid against your skin. It is a shock that helps to cut through the last vestiges of sleep. The cloth is rough, almost abrasive. As you wipe your face, you do not feel cleaner, merely awake, more prepared. You are scouring away the vulnerability of sleep, putting on a mask of grim readiness for the world outside. The shared water is an intimacy born of poverty, a pooling of resources that extends to the very water you use to wash. Now it is time to wake the others. Aurelia moves to her father, Marcus, and places a hand on his shoulder, shaking him gently. Waking for Marcus is not a transition, but an affliction. His body has been so thoroughly broken by a lifetime of labor that sleep is less a restoration and more a temporary ceasefire in a long war against pain. He rises slowly, groaning with each movement, his face a mask of weary suffering. He will take his turn at the basin last, using the water dirtied by the two of you. He expects no better. You turn to your son. Lucius, the word is a gentle intrusion into his dreams. You afford him a softness you afford no one else, not even yourself. He stirs, his small face scrunching up before his eyes flutter open. There is a moment of pure, childish disorientation, and then he sees your face, and a smile breaks through. It is a genuine, unburdened smile, and for a heartbeat, it feels like the sun has risen inside the grim little room. It is a sight so precious it almost hurts. This smile is the fuel that will get you through the day. It is the treasure your arca cannot hold. With the entire family now awake, the choreography becomes more complex. 4 bodies moving in a tiny space. The next stage of the ritual begins, getting dressed. Your clothing is not a matter of fashion or choice. It is a uniform of your class. The tunica, a simple garment, 2 rectangular pieces of coarse, undyed wool sewn together, with openings for the head and arms. It is your nightshirt. It is your work attire. It is your shroud. You own 2, one to wear, one to wash. Aurelia is not wearing hers today. She will stay in the room to mend, to mind Lucius, to perform the endless domestic tasks. But you and Marcus must go out into the city to work. You shed the tunic you slept in, standing for a moment in the cold air in just a loincloth. You take the clean one from Aurelia. It is not truly clean, merely less dirty than the other. She washed it 2 days ago in a bucket, and it still carries the faint, damp smell of wool that has not dried properly. The fabric is rough against your skin, a familiar, irritating caress. For the wealthy, wool can be a sign of status dyed in vibrant colors, woven to a fine, soft texture. Your tunic is the color of greasy sheep, and its texture is like fine gravel. It is designed for durability, not comfort. Belting it is like girding yourself for battle. You are putting on your armor. Marcus does the same, his movements slow and pained. Lucius, still small enough that his single tunic serves all purposes, simply pulls his straight and prepares for the final ritual. Breakfast, the Cenaculum. This is the bread of the people. Made from coarse, whole-grain flour, it is dense, heavy, and cheap. It is baked to last, which means by the second day, it is nearly as hard as a rock. Aurelia hands a piece to each of you. She then takes a small wooden cup, fills it with water from the amphora, and places it in the center of the floor. There is no table to gather around. The meal is taken squatting or standing. You take your piece of bread, hunker down on your heels, and look at the meager offering. This is the fuel for 10 hours of hard labor. A fistful of stale bread and a cup of shared water. Sometimes, if you've had a good week, there might be a few salty olives or a sliver of hard, pungent cheese. Not today. Today is bread and water. You dip the bread to soften it enough to be chewed without breaking a tooth. It is a purely functional act of ingestion. The bread tastes of flour, of the faint smokiness from the baker's oven, and of nothing else. You chew with a slow, grinding rhythm. Eating is not a pleasure. It is a task. You look at the others. Aurelia eats with a controlled efficiency, her eyes already planning the day's tasks. Marcus chews with difficulty, his old gums struggling with the hard crust. His gaze is distant, already absent. Lucius is the only one who shows any enthusiasm, gnawing on his piece of bread with the simple, focused energy of a child. He does not yet understand that this is all there is. For him, it is just breakfast. For you, it is a stark calculation of calories against effort, a measure of your poverty. The room is silent, save for the sounds of chewing and the constant roar from outside the window. In these moments, the family unit turns inward. Each of you is alone with your thoughts. Aurelia is likely counting the coins in the arca in her head, wondering if they will stretch to the end of the week. Marcus is probably thinking of the long, boring hours he will spend at the market, his old body aching on a wooden stool. You are thinking of the worksite, the new bath complex being built for a rich senator on the Esquiline Hill. You can already feel the weight of the hod on your shoulder, filled with bricks or mortar. You can smell the dust, feel the sun beating down on your neck. You can hear the foreman's abusive shouts. You think of the danger the rickety scaffolding, the risk of a slipped footing or a falling stone, and you push it all down. You focus on the bread. You chew. You swallow. You take another piece. You are a machine, and this is your fuel. When the last piece of bread is gone and the last of the water is drunk, the ritual is complete. The family machine is prepared. The final pieces of armor are donned, your tools. Marcus's bag, the small parcel of bread that must last you until you return at dusk. You are no longer just Gaius, the husband and father. You are now Gaius, the laborer, operarius, a body for hire. Aurelia gives you a quick, searching look. It is her daily inspection. Are you ready? Are you resigned? Do you have the strength to face it all again? You meet her gaze and give the smallest of nods. The second contract of the day has been signed. You turn. Marcus is already standing by the door. Lucius runs to you and briefly clutches your leg. A quick, warm hug before he retreats to his mother's side. You place a hand on his head, and then you turn your back on the only world you have. You face the door. Beyond it lies the final stage of your morning journey. Beyond it lies the stairwell, the street, the city. Beyond it lies the day. This is the final threshold. A flimsy plank of wood is all that separates the world of your family from the world of the building. It is not a barrier of security, but a membrane of psychological separation. On one side, you are Gaius, husband to Aurelia, father to Lucius. On the other, you are just another body in the torrent, another nameless face in the crowd. Every morning, you must choose to cross it. There is no choice. You step out of your cenaculum and onto the landing. The roar of the Insula doubles in volume. Here, on this narrow walkway of crumbling plaster and wood, you are fully immersed in the building's morning chaos. A woman from the apartment opposite yours scurries past, not meeting your eye, her arms laden with dirty laundry. The smell of her unwashed clothes mingles with the smoke and the lingering odor of someone's spilled wine from the night before. This landing is a no-man's land, a contested territory of fleeting glances and hurried movements. You pull the door shut behind you. The click of the latch is a sound of finality. There is no turning back until dusk. You turn to face the stairwell. You face the descent, the scaly, the stairs. In the grand domus of the rich, a staircase can be a thing of beauty-wide, shallow steps of marble, elegantly carved. In your insula, the stairs are an instrument of terror, a builder's greedy afterthought. They are the cheapest, steepest, and most direct route from top to bottom, designed to maximize rentable space on each floor. The wood is worn smooth and slick in the center of each tread, groaning and creaking under every footstep. You have heard of these stairs collapsing. It is a fear that lives at the back of your mind with every step you take. You and Marcus join the downward flow. It is a human river, a cascade of bodies dictated by the gravity of the workday. You press yourself against the wall, letting a panting slave boy, his muscles straining, haul a heavy amphora of water up the stairs. He will be going to the 6th and highest floor, the home of the poorest of the poor. You exchange no words, only a shared understanding of effort in your brief, passing glance. His struggle is a mirror of the one you completed last night. As you descend past the 5th floor, the crying of the Corvi family's child is sharp and clear. You pass their open doorway for a brief second and get a glimpse inside, a scene of chaos that mirrors your own, only dirtier, louder. You hurry past. To look too closely at your neighbor's misery is to see your own reflected too clearly. Down you go, to your own floor, the 4th. You pass your own closed door, now just one of many. The sounds of Lydia's loom and Septimus's coughing are briefly clearer, the signature sounds of your immediate vicinity, before you descend further, and they are lost to the general din. The 3rd floor. Here, the tenants are a slight step up. A scribe, perhaps, or a skilled metal worker. The smell of frying is stronger here, a sign of a little more disposable income. Through a doorway, you hear not shouting, but the clear, sharp clang of a hammer on bronze. A different kind of work, a more respected kind. You keep your eyes down. Then the 2nd floor, the piano nobile, the noble floor. This is the most desirable level of the Insula, away from the street-level filth, but spared the exhausting and dangerous climb to the top. The landing is a foot wider. The doors are made of better wood, some even painted a faded red. A bronze dolphin-shaped knocker adorns one. This is where a minor publican or a freedman with a successful business might live. The air is noticeably cleaner here. A woman emerges from a doorway. Her tunic is of finer wool, and she wears a silver bracelet. She looks straight through you and Marcus, as if you are smoke. In the rigid hierarchy of Rome, even poverty has its gradations. You are a 4th floor man. You do not belong here. You hurry your steps, eager to leave this zone of casual contempt. Finally, the ground floor. The descent ends, and you step into the building's churning commercial heart. The ground floor is not sleep. It works. To your left is the Pistrinum, the bakery. You see Pistorius, the baker, a mountain of a man, his bare torso white with flour and slick with sweat. He is pulling loaves from the great brick oven, the heat washing over you in a wave. The smell is intoxicating, a rich, life-affirming aroma of baking bread that is a world away from the stale piece you just ate. It makes your stomach clench with a hunger you must ignore. To your right is a popina, a tavern. It is dark and smoky within, and already 3 or 4 laborers are hunched over cups of cheap wine, seeking courage for the day ahead. You smell the sour wine, the spilled beer, the desperation. You avert your eyes. It is too easy to lose a day's wages and your entire future in a place like that. You are almost out. You move through a dark, tunnel-like entryway, the ostium. The noise from the street, which has been a constant roar, is now a physical pressure. The light at the end of the tunnel is a bright, chaotic rectangle. You take a breath, brace yourself, and step through. The street. If the Insula was a beast, the street is the apocalypse. It is a churning, roaring, stinking, vibrant, terrifying river of humanity, and you have just been swept into its current. All the sounds you heard from your window are now here, in your face, at full volume. Your eyes struggle to take it all in. The street is narrow, a canyon carved between towering tenement buildings that lean towards each other, almost seeming to touch 6 stories up, blotting out most of the sky. Laundry hangs from ropes strung between windows, creating a tattered, colorful canopy. The street itself is a sea of heads. People are everywhere, a crushing mass of bodies, all moving with fierce intent. Slaves, citizens, soldiers, foreigners, merchants, beggars, children all packed together, shoving, shouting, living. Your nose is assaulted. The glorious smell of the bakery is instantly overwhelmed by a dozen others. The sharp, vinegary stench from the gutter that runs down the center of the street, choked with garbage and waste. The savory aroma of sausages sizzling at a thermopolium, a street-side food stall. The pungent, earthy smell of a donkey pulling a cart laden with vegetables. The metallic tang of blood from a butcher's stall. And over it all, the thick, cloying smell of thousands of unwashed human bodies, the collective sweat of a city at work. This is the arena. Your room, which only moments ago felt like a suffocating cage, now seems in your memory a place of impossible peace and spaciousness. That was your world, a world you could comprehend. This is chaos. This is Rome. This is the magnificent and terrible engine that powers the world, and you are one of its million tiny, replaceable parts. You stand there for only a second, momentarily stunned by the sensory onslaught. Marcus, more accustomed, more deadened to it all, is already pushing his way into the crowd. He gives you a look. Come, you look back at the dark maw of your building. It is a monster, a fire trap, a vertical tomb that smells of smoke and despair. It is the place that is slowly killing your neighbor and grinding your father-in-law to dust. But it is also the shell that holds Aurelia. It is the den that protects Lucius. It is the one fixed point in your chaotic world. It is a place of shared misery, yes, but that shared misery is a form of community. It is the place you will drag your exhausted body back to at the end of the day. It is not just a tenement. It is your home. The thought gives you no comfort, only a grim sense of purpose. The ritual is complete. The descent is over. Consciousness has been regained. The body has been prepared. The family has been left behind. The final threshold has been crossed. Gaius, the man, has been subsumed. Gaius, the laborer, has emerged. He is no longer an individual. He is now part of the mob, one of the million hands that builds Rome, feeds Rome, and holds it up, one exhausting day at a time. His waking is over. His workday has just begun. And so, our journey into the past comes to a quiet close. If you're still awake with me, I hope this tale brought you a little peace. If you enjoyed our time together, a gentle like lets me know. And subscribing means you'll never miss the next calm adventure. If you know someone who might need a little comfort tonight, feel free to share this story with them. Thank you, truly, for being here. Until next time, I wish you the sweetest dreams.